right, Denise, welcome to Tony and Sarah Unscripted.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on. As I said to you before, that I know that this can be difficult to bring back up in your life, not that you're not living it every single day, but we just wanted to have you in because I think you're a wonderful, amazing person. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And right back at you.
And one thing that we wanted to bring on this show is people that are and have made a difference in this world in some way or another, and have also taken tragedy and used it to help others. So that being said, if you wouldn't mind just kind of giving a quick summary of what happened in 2020 and kind of since then.
Yeah, it's hard to say it quickly.
I know.
And, as I replay it back in my mind, there's so much more that happened that we didn't even realize was happening at the time. Essentially, my son, Ellis, who was a senior in high school at the time, he went to the library to go work on a project for school. It was a Sunday, very typical day, very typical activity, and he never came home. And as normal as it might be for another family, but the fact that he missed dinner and didn't call to let us know he was going to, and I know that's not so unusual for a senior in high school, it was so out of character for his behavior, had his dad and I very worried. So he didn't come home for dinner. He didn't come home, into the evening. We went to the police station, and the net of it, the story is, for 2 days, we were back and forth to our local police department, begging them to help us find our son. At one point, they did find our son in the middle of the night. He had used my credit card at a gas station, and because of the way our legal system works, the protocol was for us to call the state troopers to go see if Ellis was okay. This was hours after he'd swiped my card. He was actually sleeping in a gas station an hour and a half away from our home in the middle of the night on Sunday, which he'd never slept out on a school night ever in his life. This information was not important to our police department. And when the state troopers found him, they questioned him a little bit. I've since watched the video footage of that questioning. He was not making sense. However, they don't know what normal is for him. They thought he was okay. They called our local police department to, instead of calling us, to let us know that they had located him. And our police department called me. I spoke to the officer and I said, at first we were going on the assumption that he was carjacked or something terrible had happened to him. So when I verified that he was actually all right, the next thing out of my mouth was, well, then there's no way he's lucid and in any condition to drive, because he would just never do this. And I was told verbatim that he was fine and not having a psychotic break. That's what they said to me.
Really?
They used that language. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
And they let him go. And then the next day, in the middle of the afternoon, he stabbed a woman who was sitting in her car in her leg. She was waiting to go into a salon appointment, and he was, I guess, sleeping in the same parking lot, and he had seen her in the car, and he was in a state of psychosis and stabbed her in the leg.
Gosh. Jesus.
Yes. And our police department, they refused to, and he is responsible for that, so I'm not shirking responsibility from what he did. He committed a crime. I'm not taking that away. But I will point out that our police department, they refused to track our cell phone. He had our cell phone on his person that we paid for that was in our name. They wouldn't track it. They wouldn't allow us to report our own car stolen. He was driving, a vehicle that was registered in my name. They wouldn't let me report it stolen. And as I listened to the audio tapes of the police officers talking about what was going on with their son, it's, this mom thinks because her son's not home that something's wrong. I called begging in the middle of the night. he's still not home. He's still not home. I know they located him and he never came back. And when I listened back to how the police officers were speaking to each other, they were like, you know what to do, get rid of her. The mom keeps ramping up, like I was a nuisance. And they literally told me it was not a police issue. It was a they didn't say family issue, but they said something along those lines. Like it's, this is not our problem. Like stop calling, essentially.
This is because he was not a minor?
It was, they didn't see it as a problem, essentially. Yes, they just didn't see it as an issue.
But so the fact that they mentioned...
I mean, they were saying, oh, he probably met someone who caught his fancy. Like, that's what they were saying in the background. That's what they said. That's literally what they said. It was so bad that, the next one morning, his dad and I were at the police station and showing one of the officers there, we were showing her what normal is for him. So we pulled up text messages from New Year's Eve because New Year's Eve, he's in high school, he went out, he's out all night. And we're showing her how, it's New Year's Eve. He's not coming home for the evening. But still, when we text him to see what's going on, he responds within a few minutes. We haven't heard from him in more than 24 hours. We are leaving him voicemails, begging him to call us back. We are scared to death. This is not normal. And she took her phone number down. She never even took it down. When he was eventually arrested in Westport, Connecticut, the police department there called our police department, and they did not have our phone number to give to them. So they never came to our house. They never notified us. It wasn't until I called again and she got on the phone and said, oh, no one's gotten in touch with you yet? Like they knew. They didn't even tell us. So with that, I knew something was fundamentally broken.
But so when they said it's not a psychotic break, that would say to me that they knew that they knew what to look for.
Right.
Which
exactly
is not the case.
And shame on me, I assume they did. I assume the fact that he used that language.
Of course. But can we before we move forward, can you explain what a psychotic break is for the audience, for those who don't know?
Yeah. All right. So psychosis is essentially when you lose touch with reality. I mean that and it's not always due to an illness. It can happen. People can have psychosis for a lot of different reasons and with a lot of different illnesses. So dementia, Parkinson's disease, they cause psychosis as well. Schizophrenia causes psychosis. So it is a combination, usually a combination of hallucinations and delusions. So hallucinations would mean seeing something that's not there, maybe smelling something that's not there, hearing voices. These are all hallucinations. And delusions would be false beliefs. So maybe you believe somebody is giving you commands, or you believe that somebody is out to hurt you, or that you're in imminent danger, or could be grandiose. You might believe that you're, have superpowers. That would be delusions.
Okay.
In the case of our son, he had a psychotic break. So which would mean he went from not ever having hallucinations or delusions. There was no buildup. Our son has a diagnosis of schizophrenia. So that's what caused it.
After this happened or before this happened?
After this happened. No.
Okay.
Before this happened, we had this happened essentially on a dime as far as we were concerned.
Wow.
So he had an acute psychotic break. However, we have since learned certain things about his risk factors for schizophrenia. We know that we have a family member, he has not an uncle, his grandmother's brother had schizophrenia. So we know, there's a genetic component to it. We were not aware of that at the time. Another reason why I'm so outspoken, because mental illness is so taboo and people don't talk about it. And if we don't talk about it, how are we going to change the outcomes for people moving forward? So our story is out there. I am happy to talk about it. I cannot tell you how many people have privately messaged me about family members who have symptoms of psychosis in their, in their own family or in their own lives. It is not that uncommon. So he was eventually diagnosed with schizophrenia, but after his arrest. We did not know leading up to it.
Wow.
And we do know now, while this happened January 5th of 2020, we do know that he actually was starting to have symptoms of psychosis as early as August, but it wasn't as intrusive. He saw this metaphysical being called who we refer to as Jackson. That was kind of the catalyst in all of this. And Jackson was somebody that was more benign in the beginning and then became more devious, later on. However, when you're hallucinating due to an illness, it is as clearly as you see me sitting across
Yeah.
from the table from you. That's what it is for somebody who's hallucinating from an illness. Sometimes you have the insight to say, that doesn't make any sense. Like if I was seeing an object, or if I was seeing, let's say, I saw an iceberg behind you, I would know, there's probably not a good likelihood of that.
Right.
But if I saw a third person with you, how would I know?
Yeah.
So it's that clear. And that's what psychosis can do. Now, on the positive side, schizophrenia has a pretty good cure rate, which I was not aware of.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't know it either. I always thought once you had it, it was a sentence. That was what it was in my mind. I didn't know much about it, but about 35% of people will have a full recovery from
That's amazing.
schizophrenia. And if you have an acute onset, the odds are higher. So up to 60% who have an acute onset will go on and lead a very
If you get the
normal
care you need, though.
everything. I mean, brain, like your brain is on fire. So timing is everything. Like
Yeah.
literally your brain is being destroyed.
Yeah.
So, which leads into some of the other advocacy that I've done for better mental health treatment in our prison system and so forth. Because if you have a serious mental illness, you're 10 times more likely to wind up in prison than in a mental health hospital. And that's across country.
Yeah.
So the 3 largest mental health centers in our country are all prisons.
So when he was arrested, they still didn't know that it was a psychotic break. And how was he how did he survive? Because he didn't know. When you're having a psychotic break, you don't know you're having a psychotic break.
Right.
How did this poor kid know what was going on? I mean, can you talk a little bit about when he was
Yeah.
first in jail? I guess that's where they put him first.
Yeah, that it's an interesting point. They knew something was wrong. They knew there was something wrong with him, but they didn't have the tools to really diagnose. Now, I will say, while Guilford's police department, they did not have one officer who had crisis intervention team training. That is the training that's required to be able to assess if somebody is having a psychotic break. It's also great for people who have autism, even the
Yeah.
elderly with dementia. This training is very, very useful, and which is why I'm so passionate about it. But Westport did. They did have officers who had the training. Thank goodness. He may have been shot.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
if they didn't, what I was told was when they originally called in when the call originally came in, it came in as what they call code blue, when somebody's trying to die by suicide, because what he did was so blatant in the middle of the day. He didn't even flee the scene. He stayed there. So, and then he left when people started coming after him. So they thought because it was so blatant, maybe he was looking to, he wanted
Be shot.
to be shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when he pulled over, they said as soon as he put his hand, I guess he put his hand out of the window, and they just they looked and they were just oh my goodness. So when the police officers from Westport, I will say they were very empathetic and very kind. And when they did come over, it did seem to be a pretty clear picture for them when they came. And when they put him in prison, they put him in what's called a turtle suit, which is somebody who's at risk of dying
Yeah.
by suicide. And they put him into a mental health unit, and they knew he was not in his right state of mind. They didn't know what was going on, but it was just such a bizarre act. When his dad and I went to go see him, I mean, in the beginning, we were just like, we walked out of that prison and looked at each other and said, we had 18 amazing years, and now he's gone.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
God.
And that's what we thought. And gratefully, that is not the case. So, today we have
Yeah.
our son back. He is in prison, but he is him.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, he got the care kind of that he needs, and
well, no.
no. That's what
I would
I'm
not
curious,
say
like
that.
how
No.
Yeah.
So, no. They, it's because I testified last session to ensure that people who are in the prison system get comprehensive mental health care within 48 hours. They should be assessed and treated. And our child was left essentially in a state of psychosis for 3.5 years.
3.5 years.
Yeah.
Oh my
So he was
gosh.
in
Oh
Manson
my.
Youth Institute, where he received poor treatment, well-meaning poor treatment. So well-meaning by mental health counselors who were doing the best that they can with the resources that they had and the knowledge that they had. 50% of people who have psychosis have something called anosognosia, and that's also biological. And it's when you just have no idea that you're sick.
Yeah.
So, our son is in prison saying, I'm fine, but, I want to represent myself in court, and I want to do, but saying things that no rational person would say, and, talking about Jackson and just nobody had, his mental health counselor had never even heard of anosognosia.
Oh, wow.
So they did finally medicate him, and he refused medication because he didn't think he was sick in the beginning as well. So there's that. But nobody knew how to get him to a point that he would be receptive to the idea that he was ill. His dad and I did it. His dad and I did the training for anosognosia, and we worked with him over 3.5 years. And finally, we got him to try medication, which they put him on in Manson. Again, just not... The mental health care in prisons is so poor. They overdosed him. They combined medications that are contraindicated to be used together. They overdosed him. Luckily and not luckily, he aged out of Manson. So before he turned 22, he had just been on medication for a little bit. And then they sent him to Garner Correctional Institute, where most people who have a serious mental illness, so they do mental illness by numbers in prison. So if you're a 4 or 5, you go to Garner. He was a 4 at the time. He was so sick. Like, he was toxic when he got there. And he was saying things to me like, I need glasses now. I have blurry vision. I can't read. It was all from the medication.
Oh, wow.
And when he showed up, he just sort of collapsed. He was ignored where he was. So he collapses. They put him into a unit, and they cleaned up everything. And he had a good prescriber who changed his medication around. She put him on, I'll tell you, I'm fine saying what it is. Yeah. She put him on 20 milligrams of Latuda, and within, 3 weeks, he was completely in remission. That's all his
suffering could have.
3.5 years. 3.5 years. He has not had one hallucination or delusion since. Now, is that absolutely the reason? The timing would suggest so. However, he did have a lot of things in his favor. He was 18 when it happened. He had not, even though 3.5 years sounds like really long time.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
believe me, every single day of it felt like a lifetime for us. But with our mental health system in this country, it's actually not unheard of. Even a psychiatrist, the average psychiatrist, it takes them 9 months of treating someone with schizophrenia to figure out what's going on. You would
Yeah.
think it would be obvious. It's not. So, and there are programs to expedite that if people take advantage of them, or if they have access to them, I should say. Um, so he had his age, and he also had like a high, he never really lost his cognitive reserve. So he didn't have that, he had disorganized thinking when he was really symptomatic, but he didn't lose his knowledge base where, um, for some people they really regress that way, and he was okay, and he didn't have terrible negative symptoms either. So these are all things for somebody with schizophrenia that if you don't, that could be in their favor. So he could have spontaneously recovered. It could have been the medication. It lines up very nicely with the
Yeah.
medication. Today he's not taking any antipsychotic medication, and he has still not had any hallucinations or delusions since. And he knows now, like he's so hyper vigilant about being aware of what that
Uh,
that might look like.
does he remember everything? Does he
Sort of.
remember Jackson? Does he know about like
Oh, he remembers
his?
Jackson. I mean, Jackson terrorized him for 3.5 years when he was at Manson. I mean, not just like he thought, though, he would call me crying. And it sounds absurd, but this is, he had a false belief system. He thought the walls of his cell were on fire once. He thought that Jackson was making him shrink and he was going to disappear. And he would call me and tell me, he would call me to say goodbye. He really thought he was going to die. Jackson was controlling the staff. Jackson was, he was very, very ill for a period of time. And he wasn't getting any treatment. Jackson would force him to, like, contort himself in odd positions. Like, he would have to bend over in a certain way on his bunk, and he couldn't move for 24 hours. Just bizarre commands, where he would have a bad back, or he couldn't, he was hurt, and he was very sick at the time.
Was Jackson the reason for the incident?
Yes, the figure of Jackson is a very evil figure that can cause, in his mind, like world destruction. Like not his death. He said he would have welcomed his death, but that would not have been what would have happened. It would have been like a torture for, like a torturous situation. Like he felt like he had to follow Jackson's commands, or it would mean like world destruction. Like he really, in his mind, that's what it was. He knows that is, he's a smart kid,
Yeah.
he's a smart person. He knows that's not the case now that he's not, now that he's not sick. And he knows he's terrified to ever see Jackson again. But I wouldn't say he remembers everything. His account of what happened is not my account of what happened, And, you have two people who see the same thing, so sometimes that changes. But I think he remembers things. He had distorted, disorganized thinking while that was happening. So I think his recall is that way. So I think his recall is accurate, but it's not really what was happening at the time.
Yeah.
So
I love what you're doing, trying to change the way. Has anything changed since all this happened with the way the police departments are handling it? Because, they're the first responders, man. They need to know this, and I'm shocked that.
Oh, it's changed.
Oh, it has. Oh, good.
It wasn't easy. It was met with a lot of resistance because police officers, even CABLE, the Connecticut Association to Benefit Law Enforcement, that does the crisis intervention team training, they did not endorse making this training mandatory in the beginning. So their opinion in the beginning was if officers do the training, then they'll be invested if they do it on their own. And if they're forced to do the training, they may not be invested. I had a different opinion, especially when no one in Guilford had ever chosen to do the training. So my thought process was a little bit different, as you can imagine, with some legislation. And because she's our senator. Well, Tony, I don't know where you live, but Christine Cohen was instrumental in getting legislation in front of our legislative body about crisis intervention team training. And today, the law in Connecticut is that any officer going through the academy has to have crisis intervention team training.
Yay.
And every police department has to work with a social worker. And I actually just saw this on the news. Well, I didn't see it. Somebody told me about it last week. But Representative Greg Howard, who's out of Stonington, who is also a big proponent, and I think he's an acting police chief or former police chief. But when I was presenting in front of the legislature, he was very favorable for this training. And now he is looking to make sure that there's a social worker in the car. That is something that he's working on.
Yes.
So it has gotten legs. Also, now at this point, why I know so much about psychosis is now I'm the co-president of NAMI Shoreline, the National Alliance on Mental Illness.
Oh, wow.
And for our area. So this has been something I really jumped in with 2 feet. And our affiliate will offset the cost for any officer, dispatcher, EMT, fire department worker, anyone who wants to go through this training that does a public service. DEMIS covers the bulk of the training fee, and we will pay
That's wonderful.
whatever charges are that they're responsible for. And so at first we were doing it just in our affiliate, and now we're doing it. We've been raising money, so we've been doing it for the entire state. So we've had officers
It's amazing.
go through the training from Waterbury, Meriden, Middle. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You want to go through the training, look up NAMI Shoreline,
Well,
and
I just want-
we'll
I
help
just-
you offset the costs.
Well, so what is it that you hope to see for Ellis in the future and other
Yeah.
individuals, right?
So, you learn as you go, right? So in some ways, I would never say I am thankful that this happened, because I really wish it never happened. However, I am thankful. I'm thankful that I know what I know now. I mean, there's so many things I just was unaware of. I hope to see no one else get missed like Ellis did. It should have never happened. It never had to happen. I can't say what would have happened, but January 5th never had to happen. There never had to be a victim.
Right.
Now my son is incarcerated, and it is a space that most people don't think twice about. And there's a
true.
perception that if you're incarcerated, you belong there. And then if you come out and you commit another crime, it's because you didn't learn your lesson. We have a deeply dysfunctional Department of Corrections that really does not serve it certainly does not serve as a vehicle for recovery for people with mental illness, even though a very large percentage of the population does have serious mental illness. Nor does it serve as a place for rehabilitation. So, like for example, Ellis has been incarcerated for 6 years. He has not taken one class.
Oh my God.
He has not had the opportunity to participate in any meaningful activities. 6 years.
6 years.
And all they provide for him is a cot, and he reads. I send him books. They do have a library where he was recently moved to another facility that does have a library. However, it's like we've been trying to get him into programming for 6 years.
Jeez.
So, what happens to somebody's mind when they have nothing to do for that long. And I mean, they're just idle all the time, and there are a lot of sayings about, being idle. Also, he hasn't been outdoors since September. So there's very limited access to fresh air, sunlight. Even when he was getting outside, the sun was often down already by the time he went outdoors. The quality of the food is horrible. And, as we learn more about serious mental illness, quality of your diet is instrumental in recovery and staying healthy. I mean, it is a warehouse. It's a warehouse where people are not given any tools to prepare themselves for reentry into society. Many people reentering society require nursing care. They come out sick. It's just, and they take away your agency over yourself, and you come out with no sense of purpose. You can't really have any sense of purpose. So for everyone there, my hope is that we do the best we can as a society. I think it speaks to who we are as a state. We are a small state. We could do better.
Absolutely.
We pour almost $1 billion into our Department of Corrections every year, and we get basically nothing for it. So it's, and even Garner, the mental health, institution, they're having people die by suicide there on a regular basis. Like it's horrible. It's horrible what we're doing to human beings, allowing this to happen. So, I'm one voice. There are more voices. I'm not doing anything alone. I mean, more people are speaking up.
Yeah, but your voice made such a difference getting this. I love how if they go through the academy, they have to have the training. That's huge. And you didn't give up on that. You made it, you made it happen. And it's good. I know it's probably changing lives already.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I mean, thank you. Really. I want to thank you for everybody that's listening. They would just say thank you.
Oh, well,
it's a big deal what you've done, and I hope you feel that.
Thank you very much. I do want to say, while I may have created some noise, I have not done anything alone.
Right.
I don't do anything alone.
Yeah, but the noise matters.
Yeah, the noise is what starts it. It really does.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just so grateful to you for coming on here and sharing the story. And I know that there's just so much more that we could talk about.
We'll have to have you back.
Yeah. But in 4 years, he comes home?
I'm hoping sooner than that.
Okay.
Yeah. And he is, he's still he literally is the kid who, before this ever happened, but he still is able to, as awful as it is, he can find the humor in what's happening.
It's wonderful.
And he can crack a joke still, and he can, my thought for my child is that, he will live a lifetime and this will be a chapter, but it will not define him.
Yeah. Perfect.
So, it's a good way to end.
Yes, it is.
Thanks, Denise, for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you next episode.